The joke in the argument. You're in the middle of an argument. Your chest is tight. Your voice is rising. The heat is building. And then, bam! You drop a joke. Something witty. A punchline. The room breaks into laughter. Tension gone. Everyone's smiling now. Crisis averted. But did you solve the argument? Not even close. You dodged it. See, your brain has a toolkit it's been hiding from you. Invisible gadgets, emergency patches, quick hacks to protect your ego, your feelings, your sanity. Psychologists call them defense mechanisms. And here's the twist. Most of them don't feel like tricks at all. They feel normal, natural, like everyday reactions. Cracking a joke, making excuses, lashing out at the wrong person. We think these are just what people do, but really, they're shields, clever illusions. The mind's way of saying, nope, too painful. Let's reroute. The question isn't whether you use them, it's how often and how much they're quietly shaping your relationships, your choices, your entire reality. So, today let's crack open the defense vault and peek at the tricks your brain plays when it feels cornered. The invisible armor. Defense mechanisms sound dramatic, like you're Iron Man suiting up, nanotech swirling around your body, while AC/DC plays in the background. But in truth, they're softer, sneakier, more like the invisible bubble wrap. Your unconscious mind rolls out when life tries to slam into you. It's your psyche whispering, relax fam, I got you. Picture this. You're holding a scalding hot coffee. Someone bumps your arm. Instantly you jerk it back. No committee meeting, no PowerPoint presentation, just reflex. Defense mechanisms are the psychological version of that move. Quick, automatic, protective. Instead of burns, they guard against shame, guilt, fear, embarrassment, heartbreak, all the emotional paper cuts life loves handing out. And the wild part? They actually work, in the moment, like slapping aloe on a sunburn, or duct taping a broken chair right before company arrives. They cool the sting, they keep you upright. But here's the kicker. They don't actually fix the problem. Aloe doesn't reverse the sunburn. Duct tape doesn't turn IKEA into high-end furniture. That's where the trap lies. You start leaning on them too often. You dodge instead of heal. You loop the same patterns, safe on the surface, but stuck underneath. So, let's zoom in. Because the real magic isn't spotting defense mechanisms in other people. It's catching yourself mid-reflex and realizing, oh, that joke I cracked, that excuse I made, that wasn't just me. That was my invisible armor doing its thing. And if you recognize yourself in these next ones, don't panic, don't cringe, don't spiral. That's the whole point. You're about to meet the little bodyguards that run your brain's security team. Humor, the punchline shield. Picture this. You're at a dinner party. The vibe is light, the wine is flowing, and someone decides, out of nowhere, to bring up politics. Or worse, your ex. The air thickens. Forks pause mid-bite. Everyone's eyes dart around like, who's gonna take this grenade? So you do. You fire a joke. Everyone laughs. The awkwardness evaporates. Boom! You saved the vibe. You're the hero. Cue applause. Or did you? See, humor feels like a gift to the room. A little social WD-40 to keep the gears from grinding. But often, it's not about them. It's about you. You laugh to avoid crying. You clown to avoid being seen. You throw a punchline like a smoke bomb and disappear in the fog before anyone notices the real you. Psychologists call this a mature defense mechanism, one of the healthier ones. Because compared to denial or projection, making people laugh is a pretty decent coping strategy. You get social approval, you get relief, you might even get a Netflix special out of it. But there's a cost. That moment when you could have said something raw, something real, something that cracked you open instead of cracked people up, you ducked. You went funny instead. Comedians know this better than anyone. Think of Robin Williams, a man who lit up the world while secretly carrying his own darkness. The smile was a mask. The stage was armor. Humor works because it transforms raw emotion into something palatable. It's emotional alchemy, fear, punchline, heartbreak, meme. You take the unbearable and turn it into something everyone can share without squirming. But the flip side, it can block intimacy. Nobody sees the ache under the banter. Nobody realizes that the clown shoes are actually combat boots. It's like slapping a bright yellow smiley face sticker on a leaking pipe. Sure, the room looks cheerier, but the water's still seeping out. And if you've ever had someone look you dead in the eye and say, you don't always have to be funny, you know exactly how sharp that sticker can peel. That's what this channel is about. Spotting those stickers together, peeling them back, and learning what's really underneath. So, if you want to be part of a community that laughs, learns, and gets a little smarter about the human mind, hit like, tap subscribe, and let's keep figuring this out together. Rationalization, the story you tell yourself. Ever bombed a test and thought, well, I didn't even study, so it doesn't count? That's not logic. That's rationalization. It's the brain's built-in spin doctor, the PR team in your head. The little intern with a clipboard whispering, don't worry, boss. I'll make this sound good. You didn't get the job? I didn't even want it. She dumped you? Honestly, she wasn't even my type. Your side hustle flopped? Well, I wasn't trying that hard anyway. See the pattern? It's not failure, it's rebranding. Psychologists define rationalization as a defense mechanism that protects your ego from the bruises of reality. Instead of facing the raw sting of, I tried and I failed, you rewrite the script. I chose not to win. It's genius, really. A Jedi mind trick for your self-esteem. Less, I blew it. More, the universe and I agreed this wasn't for me. And in the short term, it works. You walk away lighter, less embarrassed, still able to make eye contact with your reflection. But here's the trap. If everything is not my fault or not a big deal, you never actually face the truth. And truth, awkward, unfiltered truth, is the messy gym where growth happens. Without truth, you're just running on a treadmill powered by excuses. You're moving, but you're not actually going anywhere. It's like giving yourself plot armor. Great for the movie version of your life. You always walk away without a scratch. But in real life, plot armor keeps you safe and stuck. The hero never levels up if nothing can touch them. So the next time you catch yourself saying, I didn't even care that much, pause. Ask, did you actually not care? Or are you just protecting your pride like a helicopter parent who won't let their kid fall off the swing? Because sometimes the bruise is the point. Denial, the Ctrl+Z button. You know this one. Denial is humanity's favorite button. Undo. Your doctor says, you should cut down on sugar. You laugh. Hey, my grandpa ate donuts every day and lived to 90. Yeah. And your grandpa also walked uphill both ways to school, survived polio, lead paint, and water straight from the hose. Different era, different pancreas. Your partner says, we need to talk. You plaster on a smile. It's fine. Everything's fine. Translation, I will set myself on fire before I face this conversation. Denial feels like safety. It's the warm, fuzzy blanket you pull over your head when the monster's in the room. If you can't see it, it can't see you, right? Psychologists define denial as a primitive defense mechanism, one of the earliest tools your brain developed to keep you sane. Because sometimes reality is just too big, too painful, too much to digest all at once. So your mind throws up the blue screen of death and says, nope, not today. And honestly, it works. In the short term. Denial is emotional Novocaine. You don't feel the drill, but the cavity's still there. The problem is, denial doesn't erase the problem. It just hits mute on the fire alarm and pretends the smoke is incense. You stop hearing the warning, but the fire is still burning down your kitchen. It's comforting to believe today's problem is tomorrow's problem. But tomorrow always comes. And now, it's tomorrow's problem plus interest. Think of it like credit card debt. You can deny that bill all month, but when it lands, it doesn't whisper. It screams with fees. So why do we cling to denial? Because facing truth is terrifying. Accepting you're sick. Admitting the relationship is failing. Owning the fact that you can't afford $14 matcha lattes every day. These things feel unbearable. But here's the paradox. The moment you stop denying, the monster shrinks. Reality is brutal when it's vague, looming, undefined. Once you name it, it becomes tangible. And tangible things, you can actually fight them. Denial protects you from the initial pain. But growth begins the moment you let go of the Ctrl+Z fantasy and face the screen as it is. Typos, pop-ups, and all. Projection, the human mirror trick. Here's where it gets sneaky. Ever notice how the loudest homophobes are often the ones secretly Googling, why does my same-gender best friend make my heart race at 2 a.m.? Or how the coworker who constantly whispers, ugh, everyone here is so fake, is usually the one who deserves an Emmy for their daily performance of totally fine Karen, not crying in the bathroom again. That's projection. When your brain can't handle your own impulses, it yeets them onto someone else. Psychologists call this a defense mechanism of externalization. You take what's uncomfortable inside you and slap it on the nearest poor soul like a mental post-it note. It's basically the psychic equivalent of, I'm rubber, you're glue, but reversed. More like, I'm rubber, I hate that I'm rubber, so clearly, you must be the rubber one. Projection turns the world into a funhouse mirror. You hurl your shadow at someone else's wall and then swear it's their monster, not yours. Which is why projected accusations feel so convincing. If someone calls you selfish with Olympic-level intensity, chances are it's not about your last slice of pizza. It's about the black hole of neediness inside them. Here's the kicker. Your brain doesn't even do this maliciously. Projection is like your unconscious saying, I literally cannot look at this part of me. It's too ugly. So instead, let's Photoshop it onto Steve from accounting. He looks like he can handle it. And because we're wired with confirmation bias, once we project, we start scanning the world for evidence. That jealous partner, they'll interpret you smiling at the barista as a torrid love affair, because their own guilty thoughts are already feeding the script. The psychology behind it is wild. Freud first spotted projection as a way for people to defend their ego from anxiety-inducing truths. Jung took it further, saying projection is how we meet our shadow self, all the parts we deny but can't fully delete. Like the browser history you hope no one ever checks. So if you've ever thought, wow, why is everyone around me so irritating? Pause. It might not be everyone else. It might just be your own reflection, glaring back. Projection is the ultimate plot twist. You think you're exposing someone else, but really, you're just subtweeting yourself out loud. Displacement, kicking the wrong dog. Your boss humiliates you in front of the entire team. You smile, nod, swallow the rage like it's gluten at a wedding buffet. Then you get home. Your roommate says, hey, did you do the dishes? And you go off on them. Oh my gosh, hall monitor, why do you always nag me? That's displacement. Your brain does the emotional version of forwarding to the wrong email thread. The boss deserved the reply. The roommate got the all-caps rant. Why? It's because the boss is risky. They hold the keys to your rent money. Your roommate? The scariest thing they hold is a Netflix password. Psychology calls displacement a defense mechanism. When direct expression feels unsafe, the mind reroutes the emotion to a safer target. It's like emotional air traffic control. Tower says, do not land this anger on runway boss. Divert to runway roommate, low risk of explosion. And here's the kicker. Your brain isn't even lying to you. Displacement feels real. The dishes suddenly feel like an international crisis. But it's not about the sponge. It's about the spreadsheet humiliation you never answered for. We all do it. Kick the chair when you stub your toe, as if IKEA is the villain. Yell at your Wi-Fi router for betraying you. It doesn't care. Slam your fridge door after an argument. Poor fridge is just trying to refrigerate. The psychology? Emotions are energy. Energy doesn't disappear. It transfers. When you suppress rage, it's like shaking a soda can. You don't stop the fizz. You just make it explode on whoever pops the tab. That's displacement, misdelivered mail from the unconscious. You thought you were venting, but really, you just stuffed someone else's mailbox with your overdue bills. And, yep, your roommate pays the postage. Intellectualization. Feelings in lab coats, breakup scene, tears welling, heart racing, existential collapse in progress. But instead of sobbing into ice cream like a normal mammal, you announce, well, statistically, 60% of relationships fail before year 2. This trajectory was well within norms. That's intellectualization. It's grief in a lab coat, pain rewritten as a pie chart. Your heart's screaming, but your brain says, shh, we have a TED Talk to prepare. On the surface, it feels brilliant. You sound calm, rational, even impressive. But it's actually just emotional ghosting. You dodge feeling by analyzing the feeling. Think of it as the psychological equivalent of explaining CPR instead of actually performing CPR. The patient, also known as your heart, is still flatlining. Why do we do this? Because emotions are messy. They're lava. They burn, spill, and embarrass us in public. Intellectualization is your mind's attempt to turn molten grief into clean PowerPoint slides. Slide 1. Reasons this was inevitable. Slide 2. Economic benefits of being single again. Slide 3. Insert pie chart nobody asked for. Freud and Anna Freud, yes, his daughter carried the torch, pointed out that intellectualization is a defense mechanism. It quarantines emotions by sending them to the logical brain. It's your psyche saying, if I can diagram this breakup like a biology dissection, maybe I won't have to feel it. And it works, temporarily. You get to skip the messy crying, the snot-nosed calls to friends, the why did I text him 12 times spiral. But here's the catch. Emotions don't disappear just because you charted them. They pile up in the basement like radioactive waste. That's why intellectualizers often look fine, until they suddenly melt down over something dumb, like a broken printer cartridge. It's not about the toner. It's about the 3 years of grief you PowerPointed away. So yes, intellectualization makes grief look like a spreadsheet. It's neat, polished, and profoundly disconnected from your beating heart. Because love, loss, and longing were never meant to be bullet points. Sometimes the bravest thing isn't presenting your heartbreak with citations. It's actually letting yourself cry without footnotes. Regression, the comfort rewind. Ever seen a grown adult slam a door so hard it rattles the Wi-Fi router? Or a 35-year-old curl up with their childhood stuffed bear like they're auditioning for Toy Story 5? Existential crisis? That's regression. Under stress, the brain hits rewind. It scrolls back through your old saved states and says, "Remember age 7? That was working for us. Let's boot that up again." When you were a kid, tantrums got attention. Blankets made you feel safe. Cartoons numbed the chaos. So, when adult stress gets overwhelming, taxes, breakups, emails with the subject line, "per my last email," your brain raids the archives. Psychologically, it makes sense. Freud, and every therapist since, points out that regression is your psyche's comfort reboot. You retreat to earlier developmental stages because those strategies worked when you were powerless. Back then, stomping your feet or hiding under the covers bought you relief. So your brain goes, why not again if it ain't broke? Except it is broke. You're not 6 anymore. You're 26 or 46, and crying into a Pop-Tart isn't actually resolving your mortgage stress. Regression is basically running yesterday's coping software on today's operating system. It's like trying to install Windows 95 on a MacBook Pro. The nostalgia is comforting, but the app crashes every time. And here's the kicker. Regression feels good in the moment. That bubble bath with rubber ducks, soothing. That sulky pout, weirdly satisfying. But it's a placebo. It doesn't fix the boss who yelled at you or the partner who ghosted. It just gives you a temporary escape hatch back to a time when life was simpler. And the scariest thing you faced was long division. Humor aside, regression is actually a reminder of how deeply our earliest coping strategies get coded into us. Stress peels away our adult layers, jobs, bills, social masks, and reveals the child who still lives inside. So the next time you see someone binging Bluey after a bad day or slamming a door like they're auditioning for Most Dramatic Teen, don't judge. They're just hitting pause on adulthood and letting their inner kid take the wheel. The trick is making sure you eventually take the wheel back, because regression might blow into the Nintendo cartridge, but it won't actually fix the game. Repression, the locked basement. This one's the creepiest. Repression isn't just ignoring something, it's burying it in the backyard, under 6 feet of mental concrete, and planting a "nothing to see here" sign. Something painful happens. Trauma, shame, fear. Your mind goes, nope, too much. We're not touching that. Let's just file it under "never happened." And voila, conscious memory wiped. Clean desktop, empty trash bin. But here's the kicker. It's not gone. It's just shoved into the locked basement of your psyche. And if you've ever watched a horror movie, you know nothing good comes from the locked basement. You forget it consciously, sure. But the thing leaks out in weird ways. That dream where you're chased by a giant clown ferret. That random overreaction when someone forgets your birthday. That slip of the tongue when you call your boss dad. Freud was obsessed with repression. He basically built his whole career on saying, you think you're fine, but deep down, you're repressing a volcano. And he wasn't wrong. Research today shows that unprocessed trauma can literally shape your nervous system, your stress hormones, even your immune response. It's like nailing the basement door shut. Sure, you can pretend the knocking isn't there, but eventually the pipes rattle, the lights flicker, and you swear you heard something whisper.
Resolve me.
At 3 a.m., repression protects you short term. It's your brain saying, we don't have the bandwidth for this meltdown right now, so let's shove it in cold storage. And sometimes that's necessary. If you had to feel the full weight of trauma in the moment, you might not survive it. But the problem? That frozen pain doesn't thaw on its own. It seeps, it haunts. It turns into ghosts that rattle chains in your relationships, your health, your sense of self. So, repression feels like safety. But really, it's long-term haunted house ownership. And the past you don't face becomes the ghost that never leaves. The question isn't, do I have repressed stuff? The question is, which basement door in my psyche is rattling loudest right now? Sublimation, the alchemy trick. Finally, a defense mechanism that doesn't leave you stuck in a loop or crying in the snack aisle. Let's end on a high note. Sublimation. Unlike denial or projection, sublimation isn't about dodging reality, it's about transforming it. It's the psychological version of turning trash into treasure. Or like that one friend who somehow makes a meal out of 3 pickles in a jar of mustard. Take rage. Pure volcanic anger. You could punch a hole in your drywall. Congrats, now you're broke and angry. Or you could funnel that same energy into boxing, or deadlifts, or writing a novel where the villain looks suspiciously like your boss. That's sublimation, the alchemy trick. Turning garbage into fuel, pain into art, chaos into contribution. Freud himself called sublimation the hall pass of defense mechanisms, because instead of repressing or displacing, you actually do something productive with the impulse. Your aggressive energy doesn't vanish. It gets rebranded. Instead of yelling at your partner, you start a podcast. Instead of spiraling after heartbreak, you write the next great ballad. Think about it. Heartbreak gave us Adele albums. Grief gave us some of the world's most haunting art. Anger gave us entire musical genres: punk, rap, screamo. Sublimation is the reason we have passion projects, activism, sports, even careers. That lawyer who crushes it in the courtroom, maybe they're sublimating their teenage urge to argue with their parents. That stand-up comic who roasts themselves on stage, sublimating shame into laughter. That friend who cleans obsessively when they're stressed, sublimating anxiety into a spotless kitchen. And here's the magic. Sublimation doesn't just protect you, it creates through you. It's your psyche saying, okay, we've got fire. Let's make sure it cooks dinner instead of burning down the house. Of course, sublimation isn't perfect. You can take it too far, channeling every ounce of pain into work, until you're a high-functioning mess who's secretly falling apart. But when balanced, it's the most creative defense we've got. It's proof that we're not just built to survive our emotions. We're built to make something out of them. So, the next time you feel like screaming, sobbing, or smashing something, pause and ask, what can I build with this? Because sublimation is the only defense mechanism where the ghost in the basement doesn't just rattle chains. It hands you tools and says, okay, let's make something beautiful. The mirror you can't dodge. So here's the thing. You don't need to feel guilty about defense mechanisms. They're not flaws, they're armor. The problem isn't using them. The problem is only using them. Every time you dodge pain with a joke, every time you excuse failure with a story, every time you lash out at the wrong target, or bury the memory, or put a lab coat on heartbreak, you're building distance from reality, from others, from yourself. But the moment you notice, really notice, the shield loses its power. You can still joke, still rationalize, still duck and weave, but you'll know this isn't the whole truth. This is armor, and maybe it's time to lower it. Because beneath every defense mechanism is something raw, messy, and human. And that's the part of you the world actually needs. So next time you catch yourself deflecting, denying, projecting, or overanalyzing, don't beat yourself up. Smile. You spotted the trick. And once you see the shield, you get to choose. Keep hiding. Or lower the armor. And finally touch what's real. Which defense mechanism do you catch yourself using the most? Drop your favorite shield story in the comments. Smash that like button if your brain feels 40% weirder, but 60% smarter. And hit subscribe if you're into ideas that stick. Figures that sketch. Ready for your next system update? Tap here and keep playing smart.